The Politics of Ecuador, a multi-party. The central government polity is a four-yearly elected presidential, unicameral representative democracy. The President of Ecuador is head of state and head of government on a multi-party system, leading a cabinet with further executive power. Legislative power is not limited to the National Assembly, as it may to a lesser degree be exercised by the executive, which consists of the President, convening an appointed executive cabinet. Subsequent acts of the National Assembly are supreme over executive orders where sufficient votes have been cast by the legislators. The judiciary is independent of the executive and the legislature. The Constitution of Ecuador provides for a four-year term of office for the President, Vice President, and members of the National Assembly with concurrent elections. Presidents and legislators may be re-elected immediately. Citizens must be at least 16 years of age to vote. Suffrage is universal and compulsory for literate persons aged 18 to 65 and optional for 16 and 17 years of age and other eligible voters. Political conditions. Ecuador's political parties have historically been small, loose organizations that depended more on populist, or often charismatic, leaders to retain support than on programs or ideology. Frequent internal splits have produced extreme factionalism. However, a pattern has emerged in which administrations from the center-left alternate with those from the center-right. Although Ecuador's political elite is highly factionalized along regional, ideological, and personal lines, a strong desire for consensus on major issues often leads to compromise. Opposition forces in Congress are loosely organized, but historically they often unite to block the administration's initiatives and to remove cabinet ministers. Constitutional changes enacted by a specially elected National Constitutional Assembly in 1998 took effect on August 10, 1998. The new constitution strengthens the executive branch by eliminating midterm congressional elections and by circumscribing Congress power to challenge cabinet ministers. Party discipline is traditionally weak, and routinely many deputies switch allegiance during each Congress. However, after the new constitution took effect, the Congress passed a code of ethics which imposes penalties on members who defy the party leadership on key votes. Beginning with the 1996 election, the more indigenous, less Spanish-rooted, ethnic groups abandoned the traditional policy of shunning the official political system and participated actively. The indigenous population has established itself as a significant force in Ecuadorian politics, as shown by the selection of indigenous representative Nina Pacari, who led the indigenous political party, Pachacuti, as second vice president of the 1998 Congress. A presidential election was held on the 15th of October 2006 and November 26, 2006. Rafael Correa defeated Alvaro Noboa in a runoff election, or second and final round. Correa won with 56.8% of the vote. There was an attempted coup against President Rafael Correa in 2010. Judicial Branch. New justices of the Supreme Court are elected by the sitting members of the court, a bare majority of Congress, acting in a special session called by former President Lucio Gutierrez in December 2004, ousted 27 of the 31 justices and replaced them with new members chosen by Congress. Notwithstanding the lack of any provisions permitting impeachment of Supreme Court justices by Congress and the specific provisions giving the court the power to select new members. Earlier, in November 2004, Congress replaced the majority of judges on the country's electoral court and constitutional court by a similar process. After the adoption of a new constitution in 2008, the judicial branch of the country was completely renewed. Now it has a cooperative leadership having a judicial and administrative head. First you have the National Court of Justice, which seats 21 judges elected for a period of 9 years. They are elected by the Judiciary Council based on a merits contest held by that office. They are the final stage of any judicial process, serving as a court of cassation and create binding precedent based on triple reiterative rulings. For the chambers of the court, the President of the court is elected amongst the members of the court for a period of 3 years, where he will represent the judicial branch before the state. The current President of the National Court of Justice is Dr. Carlos Ruiz. Second, you have the administrative branch of the judicial power, which consists of the Judiciary Council. The council is formed by 9 vocals who are elected by the branch of transparency and social control, which is formed by the control authorities of the state. The vocals are elected also by a merits contest, and it shall be formed by 6 experts in law and 3 experts in management, economics and other related areas. However, after the national referendum that took place on the 5th of May in 2011, the proposition impulsed by the government of Mr. Correa won, and now the Judiciary Council changed its formation, making a constitutional amendment. Currently a tri-party commission is serving as a transitional council with delegates from the legislative, executive and transparency branch, to reform the broken judicial system of the country. Finally, it is wise to say that there exists a constitutional court. However, it does not exercise legal revision, but rather constitutional control of situations where constitutional rights are violated. Also, they are the sole body in the state to interpret what the Constitution says. Executive branch. The President and Vice President are elected on the same ticket by popular vote for 4-year term. Lucio Gutierrez was dramatically removed by an act of Congress on the 20th of April 2005. Election last held the 20th of October 2002. Runoff election held the 24th of November 2002. The executive branch includes 28 ministries. Provincial governors and councillors, like mayors and aldermen and parish boards, are directly elected. Congress meets throughout the year except for recess in July and December. There are 27-member congressional committees. Former Vice President Alfredo Palacio assumed the presidency on April 20, 2005 after Congress removed Lucio Gutierrez amid escalating street protests precipitated by growing criticism of Gutierrez's Supreme Court appointments. Legislative branch. Ecuador has a unicameral National Assembly. It has 137 members, which are elected by popular vote to serve 4-year terms. It is based on provincial constituencies, but it also has members coming from a national list, and it has members representing the immigrant community. History. On November 29, 2007, the Ecuadorian Constituent Assembly dismissed Congress on charges of corruption and then assumed legislative powers for itself. The Constituent Assembly then proposed a new National Assembly, which is the current institution. Political parties and elections. Administrative divisions. Ecuador is divided into 24 provinces: Azuay, Bolivar, Canacachi, Chimborazo, Cotopaxi, El Oro, Esmeraldas, Galapagos Islands, Guayas, Imbabura, Loya, Los Rios, Manabi, Morona, Santiago, Napo, Orellana, Pastaza, Pichincha, Santa Elena, Santo Domingo de los Arcoles, Sucumbíos, Tungurahua, Zamora, Chincha, Santa Elena Province. Legal system. Ecuador's legal system is based on the civil law system. Ecuador recently accepted compulsory International Court of Justice jurisdiction. International organization participation. Ecuador or Ecuadorian organizations participate in the following international organizations: Bolivarian Alliance for the Americas, Andean Community of Nations, Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, Food and Agriculture Organization, Group of 11, Group of 77, Inter-American Development Bank, International Atomic Energy Agency, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, International Civil Aviation Organization ICC, International Red Cross, International Development Association, International Fund for Agricultural Development, International Finance Corporation, International Hydrographic Organization, International Labour Organization IMF, International Maritime Organization, International Telecommunications Satellite Organization, Interpol, IOC, International Organization for Migration, International Organization for Standardization, International Telecommunication Union, International Trade Union Confederation, Latin American Economic System, Latin American Integration Association, Non-Aligned Movement OAS, Agency for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America and the Caribbean, Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, Permanent Court of Arbitration, RG, UNASUR, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, Universal Postal Union, World Federation of Trade Unions, World Health Organization, World Intellectual Property Organization, World Meteorological Organization, World Tourism Organization, World Trade Organization,